I'm tired of losing to teams in the East, Grandpa. Well, the LCK and the LPL said, that's too damn bad. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of The World's Pink Ward, where we are recapping all of the events that have happened so far up to this point. And there has been a lot that has happened. We're just in quarterfinals. We got to start the upper bracket of these matchups with the last hope of the West, G2, taking on the regional team killers of Top Esports. We all know what the ceiling of Top is, but we also know how frequently they trip over their own shoelaces and end up face first on the floor. The beginning of our first game, TES build a small lead, explicitly off of CS advantages, mostly being highlighted by 369 and Jackie Love, hard pushing and skirmishing to force Broken Blade and Hansama to lose CS to the towers. Hansama would keep swapping to try and make up lost ground, though maybe he'd get a pick set up on 369, chunking him out. It was all a ruse, as the rest of Top Esports would collapse down to the bot side, pick off the first kill onto Lebrov, who would then get killed about a minute later again with a donated kill to Cream's Akali. This would help him get a solo kill onto Caps without Flash at the 16-minute mark and to start to build up those Dark Seal stacks and pushing Top Esports lead towards about 3,000 gold. Kanavi would use the Rift Herald as the engage tool for his ultimate, and when it looked like TES would win out the fight on the turn, Caps would hit a huge 4-man shockwave to even the fight back up, using that to take their first Drake. This immediately would be turned back to take credit away from him, as Caps would just AFK walk under tier 2 bot 1v2 to try to clear out a wave. I mean, even the casters were confused as to what Caps' intentions were, but he just dies for free. And a few minutes later, G2 would work to get a pick set up on 369 once again, thinking they have him dead to rights, and then in a flash, the rest of the team just shows up, wipes out G2 with hardly any resistance. To put the bow on this game, a fight around Dragon saw Broken Blade attempting to take out Hong, and Jackie Love, who would just chain CC him for what felt like the length of Genji in HL East Game 2, to be honest. He just could not move, could not participate whatsoever. Letting 369 also then get to Hansama on the back line, they would win the fight and then win the game. Next in line, Top would look for another dive composition, but the outright concern here is that a very large mid to late game front line will have G2 with Galio and Mundo, and a good amount of slows and CC options with those, plus the Ryzen Bard picks. G2 locks down the bot lane advantage by forcing Jackie Love to flash level 1, chokes him out of all of the experience maintaining him being level 1, and a level 4 Skewmon just strolls into the lane to get a kill onto Jackie. About 5 minutes in, the CS difference was 4 waves between the ADCs. Skewmon would continue to pick up kills and gold, building his lead and health bar little by little, putting G2 in a better and better position as time ticks on. Between 14 and 17-minute time span, TES would get a couple of picks, take a Drake to put the team back even with the gold, and at the 19-minute mark, a fight would almost break out, as a lot of ults and resources would be utilized, but a lot of those are missing, not really going to the way that they wanted them, and it would just be a one-for-one trade. Top would attempt to pick off Skewmon, but he's, at this point, just had so much health and healing that even with everything they threw at him, he would just walk away with more health than what he started with, and G2 would then get those kills to retake their gold lead. This control gives them ability to take Baron a couple of minutes later, thanks to Cream having his ult on cooldown. G2 maintains advantage in the fight to secure the kills and the Baron. From there, they crack the base, reset, and there would just be one last-ditch effort from Kanavi to get the engage, get some kills, but the culling over the wall and Cream just not being present for that fight would help guarantee that G2 walks away with their game. As much action as we saw in the first 2 games, Game 3 was really a huge change of script and for the better of Top Esports. Virtually nothing happened for 20 minutes as the teams were just at a stalemate, matching moves, neither really taking advantages overall in the game, scaling up, preparing for the time when we would have fights. The first one would break out at about the 21-minute mark, and Jackie Love, having 2 items and a stack Miramana, would hit basically all of his Mystic shots and do just so much damage in a short amount of time that it would tear down the G2 health bars. 5 minutes later, Top would be on Soul Point. 369 would be on his way to earning his 9 rating for the match, with a triple kill that let them move freely to then set up for Baron. Jackie was fully online, hitting his skill shots and putting an exclamation point on TES control as they would use the Baron power play to push it down mid and take game 3. One last chance for G2 to keep the West alive, and they first pick Draven, which either means that G2's full mental boomed or they've gone mad with Delusion. And they did say, to be fair, Delulu is the Salulu. So we're going to say it's probably that. Kanavi got what we saw, a lot of success on the Nefiri pick, which is early game strength, but nobody from top opted into trying to put Hans Sama at a disadvantage, letting him just get stacks of Adoration, which would then pay out with a First Blood cash out with 200 stacks, giving him an 800 gold lead over Jackie Love with a single spinning axe. G2 would sit on that lead for a few minutes, and they thought that they would have a pick on 369 in the bot lane, but TES passed the test of patience. The Gnar ult would save Hong and give them 2 kills, including the Draven. Kanavi would get the steal on Otacon to leave G2 reeling, picking up a few kills after the fact and establishing a slight 2k gold lead at that stage. About a minute later, 369 gets caught, isolated, and would deposit another 1,000 gold into Hans Sama's pockets, who would make those gold charts a little misleading in the sense that the entire difference is realistically all of a sudden on Draven, and G2 get what they thought would be a good engage, but immediately gets turned with a good use of the quickness to charm the likes of G2's hopes and dreams, killing the entire roster, taking Baron to put top in a power play. A 7k gold lead at this point, I think, is the only reason that they were winning the way that they were, though, because there was a lot of ego limit testing at that point, and they really weren't putting a lot of respect on Draven, and it could have gone the other way entirely, but luckily they had the lead that they do. Jackie Love comes in to clean up a huge mess, take the base of G2 to push them into the semifinals, and either awaiting another LPL team, an Anyone's Legend, or the defending champions of T1. And that's where we're going to segue in to this LPL LCK matchup as our final quarters matchup, which I think, again, was another one of those that had the caliber to be a championship series contender. The note going into this series, T1 having to play in from the very first match of work. They had to hit the play-in stage to then get into the Swiss stages, to then go 3-2 there to get here into the quarterfinals. So by the skin of their teeth, they have made it this far. And Faker has never lost to an LPL team in this stage. T1 would draft a huge front line to protect the president of Gumayusi, as Faker has taken a little bit more of a backseat role as T1's developed. Gumayusi on his notorious Varus, they would do a very good job at protecting him, leaving him deathless throughout the entire first game. T1 takes 3 dragons in the first 22 minutes. Anyone's Legend would get grubs and Otacon on the top side of the rift, but 27 minutes into the game, a dance around dragon would give T1 the pick onto Flandre, giving them the soul, and the ensuing delayed ace also let them march up the river to just take Baron for free, starting the clock on this game. Following the reset, the team composition of T1 worked as advertised, as they would just bulldoze AL and then move their way with the minions to take the towers and eventually the Nexus, giving them the 1-0 lead. All of a sudden, in China, Anyone's Legend might be having some question marks as to how this series might go. Game 2, I was absolutely convinced through and through that T1 was going to win this game based off of the draft. Faker on Anivia, making the life of Shanks very difficult in lane, and a Draven in the mix as well. Flandre was absolutely putting on a clinic, though, in the top lane, picking up a couple of early kills and showcasing how best to survive dives. But the map awareness from Gumayusi would at least give him the cash out he was looking for on the Adoration stacks on a cross-map ult to finish off the top laner. The next handful of minutes saw a lot of back-and-forth play from both teams, taking small advantages on either side before a fight around Otacon breaks out. T1 walks away from the objective, securing it, and then would lose a couple lives and towers for it, with AL seemingly gaining momentum at this point. Just a couple of minutes after the Otacon incident, they'll just die, like, literally for free. The LPL was in full sell mode, just running it down, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel, so LPL fans, bear with me here, because T1 was not buying what they were selling. They were also looking to sell, and at 25 minutes, T1 just walks in one by one to their deaths to give AL the Baron, 2 inhibitors, and Prio on Dragon. And before you know it, the base of T1 is just crumbling, and all of a sudden now, 1-1 score, we got a best-of-3 series on our hand. T1's composition was pretty reliant on playmaking abilities and hitting hooks from carries Blitzcrank, and the first major incident of Game 3 wouldn't happen until about 12 to 13 minutes in, when T1 turned onto AL to kill 3 members and take Dragon. But Gumayusi would get caught back-to-back times, allowing AL to bring it even and start to build momentum to take over. 22 minutes past, a full-on fight breaks out as T1 would win that, secure Otacon, 4 kills, and actually establish a small gold lead, flipping the momentum for the time being as stacking dragons of AL was still looming over the game. Just shy of the half-hour point, AL would find a similar exchange, picking up 4 kills of their own, but securing the Dragon Soul and then putting T1 in a tougher position as they would try to bait out Baron on a coin flip. Well, they called the coin flip incorrectly. AL would get advantage with a mistimed reset from T1, take the Baron, find a pick on the owner a couple of minutes before an Elder Drake fight, and then just winning from there. And I promise, this script right here, what we just saw, we're going to see it in another episode very soon again. I promise you that. Game number 4. Anyone's Legend on match point, up 2-1 in the series. They made T1 put it in overdrive, desperation mode. They're in overdrive and overdive with their draft. The first stages of this game did not see AL scaling to the degree they probably would have liked to try and accelerate their snowball on Shanks' LeBlanc, and Gumayusi was starting to build up a pretty significant lead over his lane opponent. By 17 minutes in, T1 had a substantial 5,000 gold lead, and things were just not looking good for AL to take this series in this game. Until T1 would just whiff an entire engage, and AL got the fight that they wanted, cutting the lead in half, and they were right back in it. The biggest issue that they had in this game is that Hope was hopeless. Looking at an 0.5 KDA could just not output the damage that they needed to win the fights and take the series at this point. Shanks got an assassination onto Gumayusi, but the lack of anything else after that would just see T1 stroll in, take down the carries, staggering death timers on the tanks, to include the jungler, and give them Baron and Dragon Soul. And after that, it was just a methodical siege, and Gumayusi would find a window and an opportunity to take a quadra kill, letting his teammates then take the game to send us to a Silver Scrapes best of 1. I told you guys this was a series that was worthy of the championship, and we got it to bookend the quarterfinals. Genji HLE, banger of a series. Here we are right now, T1, Anyone's Legend, on the other end of it. The two best series you could possibly have asked for. That's why I'm saying the winner of either one of those is going to be the one that wins Worlds. So let's go to game number 5, the end of the line. Faker's perfect record at risk, and the LPL looking to send their second team to the semifinals. We get to see a Jinx for Hope, Faker on Mel, and an Ashe Seraphine bot lane. This game was going to be spicy off the rip. T1 would pull ahead of the game, moving lane swaps first to give Gumayusi a 2-3 wave lead over Hope, Doran having advantage over Flandre on CS as well, and the pressure that they had just allowed Owner to free farm his jungle and go wherever Mundo pleases. T1 would get caught in extension towards the mid lane that let Flandre take TP in and then would win the fight for AL, erasing a small lead that T1 had built up and giving it to them instead. But T1 was stacking dragons, pocketing momentum and just waiting for the release. Just after 20 minutes, a back-and-forth fight killed off both junglers, and Flandre was about to pop off, but Faker would trade the kills back, and at max range aggro, steal Otacon from Anyone's Legend, putting T1 in full tempo control as their Dragon Soul would be spawning in 2 minutes. Regardless of how it happened, T1 just wanted to secure the objective to proceed in the game, and that's exactly what they did. They lost 3 in the ensuing fight, but they took the Dragon Soul, check it off the box, mission accomplished, we'll get him next time, and AL would still maintain the slight gold advantage because the results of it. After Baron spawns in, Owner would get caught out, and that would waterfall also to a death for Faker, giving Anyone's Legend the Baron, pushing their lead to 5,000 gold, and we're at this point kind of left wondering if and when T1 would use their pocketed momentum of objective buildup that they had from that control. Guma was very close to just killing off the entire team of AL, but couldn't quite get the spacing that he needed to go nuclear to win a 1v4. Finally, at the 31-minute point, T1 gets the death timers of Anyone's Legend where they need to be, giving the freedom to take over the rest of this game. A massive fight would unlock the door for them to secure an Elder Dragon, Baron, and then start to knock down the rest of the LPL towers. AL was forced to just sit and watch, waiting out the Elder buff, knowing that they really can't fight with that buff still on, but T1 had it timed perfectly, and virtually as the buff would drop off, that's when T1 would breach the Nexus towers, expose the Nexus, end up taking that one as well. Anyone's Legend not being able to defend against the unkillable Demon King and the back-to-back defending world champions who would win the game and move on to the semifinals once again. Perfect record is maintained. Our next round of games sets up the only way that they can market ticket sales, with a lone LPL team standing between the LCK and the Summoners Cup. Tonight, the first semifinal best of 5 is happening between two of those LCK teams, Gen.G and KT Rolster. Now, KT has beaten Gen.G as of late, a 3-2 series in the LCK upper bracket, but then Gen.G would come back on the lower side and get a revenge 3-0 sweep on KT in the lower finals. KT has looked way better to me than I honestly expected them to throughout the World's stages, but at this point, with the divisional matchup, it could go either way. I'm still going to favor Gen.G, as I picked them to win anyways, and they should be the favorites still to win this tournament. So I'm going to give them a 3-1 scoreline that Gen.G is going to take this one. But now that we're down to the final 4, you know my picks, you know what I've got. Let me know if your pick'ems are still alive. Did we ever doubt T1 at Worlds? Did we doubt Faker at all? The plot armor that they have, kind of crazy, not going to lie. The next video I have will be a recap of the first semifinal match series, but it is going to be late because there is an extra live stream that is happening on Twitch television. Of course, my links for all of that are going to be down below. We're streaming it across a handful of different streams and different channels, so all of those links are going to be down below. And of course, you can follow me on socials to be able to see those as well, so you can get the in on where that is all happening. We're raising money for charity, so if you want to check that one out, like I said, links down below. Don't forget to reset, though. We're going to refill our awards, and I'll see you in the next episode.